And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why...
Good afternoon. This is Brian H. B. Williams. This is the End of the Bench Media, and this is a program called God is Community. God is Community is to uplift and inform our community of pitfalls, information that will uplift and push our community forward. My mission is to uplift our grandchildren's grandchildren. That's my job, to uplift our grandchildren's great-grandchildren and put them in a position that they will never have to struggle again. In order to do this, I'll bring up a series of topics to enhance our community every way, shape, form, and fashion that I can. It puts us in a position to whereas if we do what we need to do, they won't have to do as much as we did. Now, today it's called Kitchen Conversations. The reason I entitled it Kitchen Conversations is simply because in the kitchen is where a lot of things happen in the Black community. Now, as I say every week, I speak directly to my tribe, the Black community, but because rising tide lifts all boats, the better we are, the better the community, the community of America is. We created things like the public school system, or it was created because of us. We had things like the civil rights movement and things of that nature, prison reform. There are a bunch of things that because the Black community stood up and did what they were supposed to do to enhance their lives, it benefited others. Now, the kitchen is where you feed yourself. And it's not just physical food that you ingest. It's spiritual food. You and your grandparents and parents and elders, they enhance your spirit there. They enhance you physically, as I mentioned. They give you social guidance because the thing is, in our community, food is where you are enhanced. Spiritual food, where you're going to be have God pushed into your life. Physical food to give you the strength to do everything you want. Academic food, that's where, you know what, it's a funny thing that I think about my grandparents, both my great grandmother and my grandmother, my mother's mother, my dad's mom. They would look at my grades in the kitchen. They would give me food in the kitchen. They taught me how to feed myself in the kitchen. They gave me love in the kitchen. See, the thing is, there's a bunch of love being disseminated throughout that kitchen, not because that's the only place we can do it. It's just because we show love by empowering you spiritually, mentally, physically. That's what we do it. And that's what we have valuable conversations about: taking care of your home, taking care of your family, taking care of your community. See, the thing is, I think we've been caught up in this thing called feelings too much. Your feelings. Now, is the Black community a bunch of brutes and just don't care? No, we understand that once we leave the purview of our grandparents, our parents, our aunts, our elders, and our siblings, and our significant others, our feelings don't count. The United States of America has consistently showed us that our feelings don't mean anything to the populace of the United States of America. But somehow, some way, instead of doing, we've converted our action into conversation and complaints online. We're going to boycott this, and we're going to the most popular boycott in the history of this country, the Alabama bus boycott, was not televised. It was not popularized. It was just done. See, and that almost bankrupted a bus company. We didn't tell them do this or else. We just did it. And we had community giving other people rides to work, taking people to Philadelphia. That's another town that was close to Birmingham, Alabama, 100 miles away to go to grocery stores. See, if you are in a fight against a system or someone, you don't tell that person, I'm about to throw a left hand, I'm about to throw a right hand. What you do is you fight. And when you fight, you get results. See, we've gotten to the point whereas people are waiting on us to tell them what we're going to do, and then they stand up and fight against what we said we were going to do. We can no longer do those things. And that's why the kitchen conversation is necessary, because you and your grandparents and your parents, you will have these conversations, you and your significant other, and then you and your elders, and then them and their and them and their siblings and brothers, and that'd be a communal situation. We're going to talk about what we're going to do in the Williams, Pollard, Whitmore, Liggins family. That's my family. And we would all come together and we would say, hey, it's too many potholes in the street. We need to vote for this person. This person is running for sheriff and things of that nature. That's why you engage in the political apparatus. You don't do it because my ancestors did it. We did it because we were in imminent danger. This leads us to a colloquialism that is bantied about, and we speak about it loosely, the cookout. The cookout is something in which we talked about everything under the sun, the rearing of children, the dysfunctional children, the dysfunctional relative. Because at one point in the Black community, we understood the weakest link represented the chain more than the strong link. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. See, you don't worry about the wheels that are not squeaking because they are running perfectly. It is the young person or the old person or the middle-aged person that is not doing as well. That's the person we need to pull up and bring up. See, you don't need to read the Bible to a person who's doing everything they can to get as close to God as possible because they're doing what they're doing. You do it to the wayward person. And we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from taking care of our elders and our young people who are wayward. See, this is why the cookout exists. Because Brian, H-Rap is not doing well in school, and someone who speaks your language or who's been through your trials and tribulation would approach you. It's not always a scolding, but it's not going to be about your feelings. See, my grandparents and my parents and my elders and my mentors throughout the community, they never cared about my feelings. They loved me. See, your feelings, if I care about your feelings, I may hinder your development because I'm coddling you. But if I love you, I'll let you know what you're doing wrong, and you'll either ingest it and process it and do better, or at some point down the road, I'll have to help you again. See, it seems that we've forgotten about helping people down the road because everybody's not going to get it on the first time. Some people are not going to get it on the 10th time. But see, we've gotten to the position of not feeding people properly. See, applesauce may be my favorite thing, but some people may like potatoes, mashed potatoes. Some people may like mac and cheese. Some people might like chicken, beef, or steak, or fish. But we have to have, if you use the entire family, the entire community, the entire village, and the entire culture as it was once used, we can help develop each and every person. And of course, there'll be wayward people. But we can't worry about the wayward people when we're talking about the collective, because this is why I call this program God is Community, because that book tells you everything that you need to know. Train up a child the right way, and even if he runs astray, he'll come back to that. If you approach someone speaking their language, and I don't mean English, Spanish, French, German, so forth and so on, the language of their learning capabilities, what happens is they'll remember that you cared. They'll remember that you took time. Even if they don't address the problems that you're addressing, identify with the problems that you're addressing in that moment, they will. They will. They will always remember that. The cookout is primary. The cookout is something that we all need to pay attention to. See, because when we're dealing with the cookout, we're feeding physically, but we're also addressing spiritually. We're addressing culturally. We're reminding. It's on display. A child. It's just like the aforementioned love. See, I can tell you I love you. I can show you I love you, and your feelings are not the issue. When you're a young person, you don't understand the concept of hot, cold, warm, and things of that nature. So your grandparents or your parents, that's hot. They'll tell you once, they'll tell you twice. The third time, they'll let you burn yourself slightly. They'll let you get a sting. And now for the rest of your life, you understand hot is equal to danger. We seem to not do that anymore. What we do is go online and we complain that the world isn't perfect. That's what we do. because we got people 2 days ago, there was a verdict on an Asian man who unalived a young black man. 32 years after Latasha Harlan was unalived in the same circumstances. So there was a lot of people upset and outraged, and they couldn't believe it. My question to my community is, why can't we believe people in this country don't respect us or don't care about us? Why are we still having that conversation? People in this country have shown us time and time again, we're only beneficial to them when they're only willing to work with us when it's beneficial to them. When we were fighting for civil rights, people looking at us like as if we were crazy. You learned at the cookout that the civil rights movement was not about voting. The civil rights movement was not about eating at restaurants. The civil rights movement was about the protection of our community using the laws of this country. Because we understood at that point, we are in imminent danger. Day before yesterday showed us we're in imminent danger again. And they're good people in all communities. But by and large, people have bought into the system that is oppressive. See, we always think, well, they're working with us. No, it's always going to be someone in a capitalistic society that wants to have their boot on your neck. And you may even have your boot on someone's neck. But if you have culture behind you, you have community supporting you, you have family training you, and the love of your relatives and significant others, your feelings don't count anymore, because at that point, we're dealing with right and wrong. See, this country doesn't understand the concept of right and wrong. No matter how great people are, this is America, the greatest country in the world, but we still don't know what right and wrong is. Look at the people who live in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Look at the governors in most states. Look at the mayors in most states. Look at your elected officials. Because, see, we have this thing called professionalism. That's business. These terms called professionalism. That's business. You know how it is. That's how it goes. But now, let's just go right back to the basics of the Bible. Right and wrong. Righteousness and sin. Sin and sinner. That's it. Now, some people are going to fall short. And you learn that in the Bible as well. See, the reason I call it God is community, because I'm going to always go right back to the essence. Jehovah Jireh, Yahweh, Allah, God, however you address them. We're going to go right back to the basics. Right and wrong. We're going to follow the instructions as close as we can. And when we fall short, we got to understand. And that's when you're dealing with right and wrong. If you fall short, people understand because you've done your entire best. I don't think our community is doing this entire best, because we fell for the biggest dupe in the world. And that dupe was integration. Integration became a synonym or a colloquialism, or a pseudonym, I should say, for assimilation. This is why we need to stand tall. See, when we start assimilating or integrating, integration is a hoax. Again, I mentioned being duped last week. It's a hoax. The greatest hoax in the world was integration. See, integration is like I'm doing with my hands. I'm integrating them. You notice both hands are grabbing hold to another finger. This is not integration. We took successful Black businesses from our communities, restaurants, department stores, catalog stores, auto mechanics, plumbers, and things of that nature, schools, and integrated them. And nobody came over to, and we entered that other system, and nobody came over to ours. See, when integration is there, all parties available will benefit. And guess what? At that point, a rising tide lifts all boats, because if all the funds went to other communities and they come over here, some of those funds will naturally be coming over with us. But other communities shut their schools down and created private schools, so you wouldn't be able to integrate into that. And then that way you get left with the low end of the totem pole, and they continue to excel. You hear a lot of people say, hey, well, over the last 35 to 40 years, white people lost a lot. They did. That's the truth, because they had a lot. They dominated most of it. So if you have 100% of something and someone gets 10, you still have 90, but you lost. And if it gets down to 45, if you ever get down to losing 45%, guess what? You still have 55% of the control. You lost a lot, but you had a lot to lose. That's what we're dealing with. When nobody's addressing having a lot to lose, we're just consistently addressing I lost. See, you don't lose when other people gain. If it's a country and everybody's, as I stated, standing tall, what happens is this. The schools are best, so technology be best, food service is best, customer service is best. You got the best people doing it. See, that's why you talk about affirmative action. Then it benefits 85% women, and then middle-class Asians, middle-class Latinos, middle-class Blacks, and the poorest of the poor continue to struggle. So is it really affirmative action? Or is it just, I'm going to help the best of the best and let the poor struggle? See, when you are living in a country that's dealing with right and wrong, everybody gets the same opportunity. Then you don't need affirmative action. You don't need DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Because if you include everyone, diversity comes about. If every school has the exact same amenity as every other school in the United States of America, the cream will rise to the top. We don't have to worry about what they look like, where they come from, and what language they speak. We don't have to worry about who they pray to or who they lay with. That's why you need to stand tall. And the reason I believe we're not standing tall is because due to integration or assimilation, what has happened is this. We forgot who we were. We forgot the fact that some of the greatest legal minds in the history of this country were Black people. You hear about Thurgood Marshall, you hear about people like Johnny Cocker, now you hear about Ben Crump, you hear about Billy Martin. One of the greatest legal minds in the history of the United States is a Black woman. Pauli Murray. Look her up. Pauli Murray. Yes, a woman, a Black woman. Well, she's a very fair Black woman, but she's still a Black woman. She was in class with Thurgood Marshall. She bet the teacher, the instructor, the college instructor, that her theories would one day reign supreme, and they have. See, we only hear about the great Dr. Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, and others, but there were legal minds in the background working, and a lot of those are women. How many of us, before the movie Numbers or whatever it was, Hidden Figures, nobody heard about those Black women in which the astronauts would not take off without those Black women's calculations. See, if you stand tall, you know your history. A simple way to stand tall is, do you know how your parents met? Do you know how your grandparents met? Do you know anything about your elders' parents, meaning older cousins and aunts and uncles? Do you know about those things? Do you know about the origin of your family? Do you know what led you in the city that you live in? Like me, I know exactly how my family got here. Some of us came from Arkansas, Wayne, Arkansas. Some of us came from Mississippi. Some of us came from Tuskegee, Alabama. Some of us even migrated from Rosewood, Florida. And being Black, most of us know why I said Rosewood, Florida. That's where my grandfather's from. See, when we know these things, we stand tall. We know what our grandparents and parents and elders have gone through. And you understand that slacking isn't a possibility. You understand, as I stated, your grandparents. The crazy thing is this. I spoke about my grandmother, all three of them, my great-grandmother and my grandmother's, dad and mother's mother. What I remember the most about them is learn your lesson. That's my great-grandmother, Esther Cotton. Esther Whitmore. She was born Esther Cotton. My grandmother, Dolores Pollard, her daughter. Make sure you do your schoolwork. My grandmother, Maddie Mae Williams. Make sure you do your schoolwork. See, because your schoolwork isn't just going to school and learning how to read and write and divide and understand the vocabulary. It is understanding the foundation of our community, understanding the history of our community, understand the dangers that our community have been met with, understand the tyranny that we're being faced today. See, we believe because Brian is 100,000 there, and Theodora is a millionaire, and Phyllis is also 100,000 there. We've made it. No, because we have hundreds of relatives who are not making it. Again, it goes back to that weakest link in the chain. If the weakest link isn't successful, you're not. If Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama and Michael Jordan and those people and those entertainers and Bob Johnson and Kevin Smith are all billionaires, we're not doing well, they are. And that's why we must stand tall. So we can be the next Paulie Murray. See, because it's easy to be the next Paulie Murray, the next Johnny Cochran. It's easy to be the next Fannie Lou Hamer, the next Coretta Scott King. See, when you do your research, you understand things have been hidden from you. And the reason people hide knowledge is for ignorance. Ignorance creates a weakness. Weakness allows you to be broken. If you're broken, then you end up the way we are today. You end up arguing with people on the internet about how people should treat us. You don't have to go on the internet and say, we're not going to do this. If my significant other went online and said, I like Fred Smith, I'm not going to respond to her. I'm just going to leave her alone. And when people murder us in the street, when politicians don't live up to what they want to do, when businesses disregard me and my money, I bring my money other places. See, when you help, just like this boycott that the NAACP is organizing, that young Black men and women who are making institutions like Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, Texas, UCLA, and I won't call it UCLA because they weren't involved in this, University of Florida, Florida State, South Carolina, North Carolina. When those institutions are making hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and they have legislation to oppress and suppress our power and destroy our communities, you don't go to those institutions anymore. See, when you stand tall, you realize you're the show. You came to see me. It's rare that we go to see other people in other communities. It's rare. When you look at the Heisman Trophy thing, the Heisman Trophy went on for years and years and years. And now you have others sprinkled in where we dominate. Who's your favorite NFL player? Who's your favorite NBA player? Who's your favorite MLB player? He may not be an American Black, but he looks Black, which means he has African descendants running through his veins, which means, whether you want to admit it or not, he's Black. So you're not Spanish. No, you're not Spanish. Spain is a country that dominated your ancestors like the other European countries dominate ours. But if you know who you are, you, again, stand tall. You know your history, you stand tall. If you know a B is acceptable, not the goal, A is acceptable. Honors classes should be required in every aspect of your life. You should be disappointed when you don't get honors classes, because if you're living in a country in which 400 years of existence in the United States culture, 250 years in about 3 weeks will be the country, people attacking you, people attempting to destroy you, they're attempting to break you. You understand that second best is not acceptable. Second best is not acceptable. A C, you can get a C, trust me. Being a qualified C student for the vast majority of my academic career, you can just show up and get a C. But if you want to live a regular life, you get a C. Now, if you want to excel, if you want to be celebrated, if you want to be rich, if you want to receive power, you do your best at every turn. I'm not good at that. That's not acceptable. You're good at anything you try to do. See, people say, oh, well, math, they're scared by math, but it's because it's the numbers. But if you realize it, 8 times 9 will always, you put an 8 multiplied by the number 9, it will always be this. So if you do 800 divided by 9, it would be 7,200, 720, or whatever. By 800, you'll get 80. By 90, 720. It'll be that number. But they don't teach you that. It's also math. It's a thinking exercise. And by being a thinking exercise, it's going to be lateral thought. It's going to force you to go into uncomfortable places. And we need to be uncomfortable as the Black community in the United States of America. Comfort is why we suffer the way we do. We're uncomfortable. We're comfortable. And that's why people strike out violently when you make them uncomfortable. There's certain theories that I have in regards to comfort that I won't share. But discomfort helped me grow. We're going to use like a seed. A seed. A seed goes into the dark, unoxidized earth. And it germinates and it powers through the dirt and it comes up as a crop, whether it be a piece of fruit or a tree or even a weed. But the seed is in uncomfortable places, and it comes out and it grows down for a base, and it grows up for the sun and the moon and the stars and the oxygen, and becomes a beautiful flower. Well, even if it's a weed, it's a beautiful flower because it's created by God. See, but it stands tall out of oppression, tyranny, and disregard, because we disregard it, put it in the ground. The earth oppresses it, it holds it down, and it comes up. A beautiful weed, a dandelion is a beautiful flower. A daisy is a beautiful flower. We've been told roses are the most beautiful. In most cases, roses are orchid because they're beautiful, but all of them are. And just like all people are beautiful, especially people in our community, we're all beautiful. We may not be able to have the oratory skills of an H.R.B. We may not have the singing skills of a Whitney Houston or Aretha Franklin or Marvin Gaye or Luther Vandross. We may not have the rhythmic skills of Langston Hughes or Nasir Jones or anybody of that nature, Stevie Wonder. But we all good at something. One thing I learned from a late relative, God made no blanks. Everybody's good at something. And we can be good at everything. See, you think a jack of all trades, you ain't good at anything. But no, if I'm a jack of all trades, I'm good at multiple things. And I'm great at multiple things. I could be an electrician. I could be a plumber. I could be a mathematician. I could be good at all those things. So being a jack of all trades is a compliment. But if you look at, if you do the research and you stand tall and do the academics, you find out being a jack of all trades is something to be accomplished. Is an accomplishment, excuse me. But we're not using it as accomplishment. We use it as a detriment. Oh, you're not mastering anything. I don't need to master anything. That's why I have people in my community to help me. If I'm an electrician, you're a carpenter. I don't need to be a carpenter, the best carpenter. I need to be the best electrician. He's the best carpenter. He'll teach me what I need to know. See, this ideology comes from not listening. And as they say in carpentry, cut twice. Measure twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. The reason you measure twice and cut once, it goes into every other thing that just like with God. You listen twice as much as you speak. You cut once, because once something is cut from your mouth, you're a slave to it. See, you're a slave to what you say. You're a slave to what you say. You own what you think. You can think anything you like. You can think all negative thoughts that you like. But when you speak them, they become part of who you are. I could hurt this person. Now you're identified as a violent individual. I hate this person. Now you're a hate monger. I despise anything negative. I wish this happens. You curse someone. And that's who you are. You can think it and nobody know it but you. And that's what we need to start thinking, aka measuring, and then speaking. But we don't do that. Oh, well, you need to get off that Democratic plantation. You heard it. It sounded good. You regurgitated it. You need this when you speak. You need to have a resolution to the problem. Unless you're in a position presenting the problem so that you and others can think about them and resolve them. Again, if you just blurt out, if you don't measure twice and cut once, you'll suffer the consequences. You become a slave to what you say, because what you say is a representation of who you are, and no one will ever remember that you said the most brilliant thing in the world if consistently you're throwing a negative entity, shooting negative entities out of your mouth. See, but when you know and you stand tall, you'll be able to look at places, people like No Harm Done. Now, you read that No Harm Done, that sounds like a wonderful organization. They don't want us to stand tall because statistics, research, and history shows us that we're in imminent danger. And anytime throughout the history of this country, people in my community have galvanized, come together, and build. Other people have attacked us. Other people have attempted to destroy us. And other people have continued to try to rule us. But we will not be ruled. And that's why you have to stand tall. And then you find out that 40% of the doctors in a UVA study said Black people can take more pain. Their skin makes them tougher. They can absorb more pain, so they give us generic meds and they give them the traditional meds. More potency, being able to last longer, and then we sit back and suffer the consequences. And then that's why you come up with things like black doctors, and you have black this and black that, but no harm done is attacking those entities, knowing the history of our community, knowing the history of the destruction of our community, and they still want to do away with it. Because if we ever get our footing and stand tall, at that point they think we'll put our foot on their neck as they've done to us. But we understand that the original man is the black man and woman. The original people on this earth all are African, no matter how far. I'm from Yugoslavia, and you have African in your blood. I'm from Asia. I'm from Korea. I'm from Nova Scotia. You have African in your blood, so I don't want to hurt you because you're a distant cousin. But everybody isn't thinking like us. That's why you can understand that we have the God in present. We stand tall because God is in our essence. See, that's why our black community can forgive each other and forgive others for doing harm to them, because that's what God does. See, again, it all goes back to God. And I'm telling you, when you stand tall and understand, like I brought up those scriptures, I'll bring them up again. I'll find it in a second, and I'll bring those scriptures up again. Look at these scriptures, ladies and gentlemen, haters and bitter friends. Look at those scriptures. It'll tell you. It will tell you exactly what I'm saying, but we're not paying attention to that. We're not standing tall. We are dealing with people in accordance to the way they deal with us. And that's not the way we were taught. That's not who we are, and that's not how we live. We're not standing tall because we believe that if we stand tall, we'll be perceived as weak. We'll never be perceived as weak. Weakness does not align itself with the Creator. We have and we are. And that's why we stand tall and do what we need to do. Most of the things that are beneficial in these United States come from us. But again, you must do the research. You must do what they call the knowledge. You must apply that knowledge and apply yourself so you can stand tall. See, when you get this information and you live in this information, you never have to suffer the consequences of evil, wicked, and destructive people. But the moment you try to integrate and it turns into an assimilation, that's what leads to destruction. Destruction of community, destruction of family, destruction of culture, destruction of spirituality, and things of that nature. All these things are tied into each other, but we're not taught that. And we don't go learn it because you only believe you're supposed to learn while you're in school. And that's just not the case. That's why we are the standard. When you're looking at the world, you'll see we are the standard. Imhotep, the original physician in the world, he also helped design the pyramids. Yes. So that snake that you see when you go to the doctor, there's a snake with a sickle. We created that. But they'll tell you it is Greek, and they'll tell you it comes from other cultures. No, it isn't. Writing, the written language. We started that. We are the standard. And that was thousands of years ago. Not a problem. We can go right over. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it is. It has been bandied about that some of the greatest people in the history of the world are Black. We just, whether you look at athletics, if you look at academics, if you look at poetry, you look at music, we could even start 100 years ago when big band was Count Basie, Duke Ellington. They are the standard. You move forward, you get Chubby Checker, you get James Brown, you get Little Richard. Rock and roll is born. We're the standard. You get people like Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, Dorothy Dandridge, beauty, excellence, elegance, and singing. We're the standard. When people are being discriminated, when women are getting discriminated against, and they create a movement called the suffrage movement. Who has one of the most powerful speeches? A black woman by the name of Sojourner Truth. And we only doing this in the 1900s to 20th century. I'm not going to go back to the 1800s. There's no need to. When you talk about poetry, you talk about Langston Hughes, you talk about Paul Laurence Dunbar, you talk about our great sister. I can't think of her name, I can see her face, and I'll think of it in a second. We are the standard. We are the standard. When you talk about this, what we call neo soul, that was 50, 60 years ago, Nina Simone and others. We are the standard. We talk about music addressing culture, that's the 60s. When you talk about Sly Stone, you talk about Stevie Wonder, you talk about Marvin Gaye, you talk about Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, and then just solo Curtis Mayfield. You hear about Gladys Knight and the Pips, you hear about Aretha Franklin. These people set the standard. See, before you were allowed to believe that you needed other cultures, you never stopped to realize that you think because you're behind someone, they're in the lead. No, we've lapped them, and we're about to lap them again because they're chasing what we do. We are the standard. Just because you have people telling you you're not the standard, and they're saying, see, these are the shortcomings of ... See, if you, it's just like I speak on the young brother LeBron James a lot. I'm 14 years older than LeBron James, and people, oh man, you defend him too much. But no, he's just the example. I don't care if you like him or not, but he's been villainized. I'm old enough to remember when people like our elder and ancestor Jim Brown used to criticize people like Michael Jordan, people like Magic Johnson, and others for not using their power and influence to redirect the community. LeBron James does all the things that Jim Brown used to complain about, that we used to amen Jim Brown for even mentioning. But we've allowed the standard to change. See, LeBron made, we need to help each other. He made all 5 of his buddies millionaires, and they've made people millionaires. We need to speak up for the community. He does that, and we criticize him. He messed up the league. How could he possibly mess up the league? And him and Kevin Durant are the only 2 people who've exercised that right to go where they want to go when they want to go. Out of 460 people. We can even say out of about 1,100 people since he's been in the league, only 2 people do what he did. But he messed up the league because someone told you, and you don't realize we understand that I'm going to exercise my ability to do what I want, when I can, as long as I can. And we think it's something bad. Knowing if you go to work Monday and another employer calls and offers you an additional $5,000 a year, unless you are totally immersed and enjoy your place of employment, you are out of there. If they offer you $25,000, you may not even think about loving your job. You may just go. And that's what he did. But we are taught to fight each other and backbite and backstab again. All the same things that book told you not to do. No backbiting, no tattling, no stabbing, backstabbing. Again, it goes back to God's community. If our community immerses itself in the creator, no matter which creator you adorn yourself with, you'll be right. Again, right and wrong. It goes back to right and wrong. If you, oh man, I don't like gay. Oh, well, don't kiss same-sex individuals. Well, everybody thinks that's why I didn't ask you what everybody thinks. I'm telling you how I feel. And I need you to respect me for being different and respect me because I'm different. You don't have to, oh man, we need to be on this side or we need to be on that side. Mm-mm. See, I'm old enough to remember, and I say that a lot. I'm old enough to remember when ain't wasn't a word, and now it is. I'm old enough to remember as recently as 2005, conversate was not a word, but it's in the dictionary now. Makes it a word. So you think, oh, well, you're speaking wrong. There's no such thing as speaking wrong. Communication or language is a collective of words disseminated between 2 people in order to make thought a reality. So if you understood my thought, I said it right. That's called dialect. But you're so busy assimilating that you've left your dialect behind. See, It's a group of people in these United States called the Gullah Geechee. And they got it right. They never changed their dialect because the dialect was paramount to them. I'm not changing who I am to assimilate. I'm going to have the ability to communicate with my people and know your language. Most people in this world outside of these United States of America know a multitude of languages. They know their dialect. They know, like Africans, they know their personal dialect, their tribal dialect. They know French. They know English. They know Spanish and others, so they can communicate across the board. In America, we're focused on, oh, you said ain't got no. You're wrong. No, I didn't. Ain't got no is a double negative. Ain't got no. That's a double negative. But you understand, no is the answer. Whatever I'm asking for, ain't got no. Does it sound horrible to your trained ear? Yes, it does. But you know what? It's a form of what's called the African American dialect. And you think it's wrong, and it was told to me 40 years ago when hip hop culture started taking over, when it was just rap music. It was going to go away. You need to stop speaking like that. And now you hear terms on the news, the network news. Back in the day, that wasn't part of the American verbal lexicon 40 years ago. Keeping it real. Terms that came about in the late 80s, like ganked out of California. Nobody told me what a gank was, but I understood because I'm part of this community. Nobody told me what gank meant, but I understood because I'm part of this community. This young brother by the name of Kendrick Lamar, or K. Dot, whichever you identify him, he, at the end of one of his songs, he said that part. Black women, coast to coast, border to border, city to city. You make a point, a salient point, and they're all gonna go that part. Nobody, that was no meeting. But see, you don't even embrace who you are. You love the 70s though. You don't embrace who you are, but you don't understand that we're the standard. The 70s brought about being yourself. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Letting your hair grow the way it naturally grows. Walking the way you naturally walk. Being who you are. You love 70s parties, but you don't embrace our cultural footprint of the 70s. You love 70s movies. You love 70s music. But you left 70s culture to continue to assimilate. Because you are not standing tall in who you are. Ask the average person in these United States of America, who's your favorite basketball player? More than likely, it's going to be a Black person. You go to the service, ask, who's your favorite baseball player? More than likely, it's going to be a Black person. Who's your favorite musician? Depending on the decade, it's more than likely going to be a Black person. Or Stevie Wonder, and then Michael Jackson and Prince, and then whoever it was in the 90s, and then whoever it is now. More than likely, it's going to be a Black person because our music touches is made with feeling and spirituality, and it is immersed in God. And I'm old enough to remember, again, there go that term, when every album ever made had a spiritual song on it because they wanted you to get touched in the heart. They wanted you to understand, no matter what I have, it comes from God. I may be the vessel, but the vessel was created by God. The ability was infused by God, and I'm going to allow God to have it. If you doubt me, look at the original lyrics to the song, Let's Go Crazy. Prince. I'm not going to let the elevator break me down. Let's go crazy. The original lyrics are, I'm not going to let the devil break me down. Let's go crazy for Jesus. Couldn't be played on the radio. Because when you're living in a society that lives on people being at the lowest portion of the totem pole, you infuse yourself with God, you'll automatically come up. And then that would automatically make the top person come down. And then if others stand, then the top person is eye to eye. And now, if we even, I'm leaving. See, if you understand that you're the standard, the first person, as the Bible says, the first will be last and the last will be first. If you understand that, if it's not just some saying, you understand, you immerse yourself in the teachings of the Most High God. If you immerse yourself into these things, you'll understand. You are the standard. Just being part of God, having the power of God. Me being able to disseminate this message to you comes straight from God because it's the truth as I see it. And it's the truth as I researched it. And it's the truth as I know it to be. Now, it's my opinion. It's still my truth. And if I find that anything I've told you is different, my history shows you I'll come back on the next week and correct myself. But we are the standard. History tells us we're the standard. My grandparents told me I'm the standard. My parents told me I'm the standard. The elders in my community told me that we're the standard. But do you believe it? And if you do, then you don't have to rally the troops. There's a standard set. No one will disrespect us. You don't want us on the front of the bus? Not a problem. We'll bankrupt your bank. We'll bankrupt your bus. You want to make fun of people being lynched in your roast and try to pass it off as comedy and then be defiant and disregarding? Okay. Well, what we're going to do next time you put something on Netflix, next time you're in the box office, we'll show you. We'll show you. A lot of people, we got to give him grace because. No. Nobody ever had to get Dr. King grace. Nobody had to give Fred Hampton grace. Nobody had to give Huey P. Newton grace. Nobody had to give Fannie Lou Hammond grace. When last time Coretta Scott King got grace? When last anytime my great African-American, Black, Negro, or whatever we were calling ourselves at the time, when last time that they needed some grace and didn't get it? They hammered through and they stood tall for who they were because who they were represented us. And we said that's the standard because we're the standard. So if you can't live up to that standard, maybe we need to just pull away our support, quietly walk away, and don't have to do anything. You had a young man from another community. I'm not going to give these people any props. Another told us, well, you don't want to deal with us? Go get your own feet done. Hey, bottom nail here in Chicago. Homegirl Jackie Lawson graduated from high school with her. She owned the joint. Go check out. Make Jackie never have to go to her secondary place of employment again. Yeah, let's do it. That's just one. Oh, you don't want to have takeout food. Well, okay. The culinary excellence that sits in my community, you don't think we can replicate and improve on your food? Show them. Oh, well, you don't get your dry cleaner. Well, you know what? At one point, I grew up in a neighborhood that had 3 black dry cleaners. We can do it. Okay, we'll do it. Not a problem. See, people have gotten so arrogant and immersed themselves into a culture that is designed to take the standard and make it seem as if the standard is lazy, shiftless, and does not work hard. They don't want you to remember that people have burned down all your accomplishments, attacked you at every turn. First child ever electrocuted was a black young boy, 13 years old, and they found out he had nothing to do with it. They murdered this young man in 13 hours. Had to put a phone book under him to execute him. How many people every year, you see 4 to 8 people have been incarcerated for 39 years, been incarcerated for this many years, been incarcerated for that many years. DNA has shown you that they've been wrongfully accused. So we don't need other people. Understand this, and I'm about to go. They tell you the African-American community is 13% of the population here in the United States of America. This is Brian math. This is the way I perceive it. The reason you're being told that is if you look at people of my hue, we may make up, and you go hue to hue, then you can say that. But please explain to me how. And I've done this math. 126 Mexicans in Mexico. How could there be more in this 45 to 60 million of us in this country? How could they outnumber us? Just Mexicans, Guatemalans, and other Central American, other South American countries. We're not going to go Latino. We're going to go each individual group. We're not going to go white. 85 million Germans in Germany. I think it's 42 million Italians in Italy, and so forth and so on throughout the cultural divides. How could they possibly outnumber us over here? And they don't really outnumber us over there in their homeland. So that would make us, think about this. If we only make up 13% of the population, why is it that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party need our support? We're only 13%. Who looks for 13%? Because we had the largest numbers. And if we had the largest numbers, that means we had the most power. If we had the most power, why aren't we galvanized? See, you think you have to like people in order to work with them. It used to be a time that white folks didn't even want our money. No, we don't want them. We don't want them nigga pennies. That was the term. No Jews, no Italians, no Negroes, no dogs. So they didn't even want our money. So, but then we created a basketball league. We created a hockey league. We created a baseball league with Rube Foster and the Negro Leagues. And there people start integrating into the Negro League baseball because it was a more entertaining, more athleticism, and more fun to engage with. So we got to stop there. We're going to let y'all come over. We should just say, no thanks. And now we have things like HBCUs. Battle of the Bands. Most people I know love the Battle of the Bands. Some of your favorite football players come from HBCUs. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Shannon Sharp. Three of the top three people at their position. Michael Strahan, David Deacon Jones. These people are the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, as they say. They got from there. George Gervin, Dr. J, Willis Reed, Earl Pearl Monroe, HBCUs. See, no, Dr. J doesn't come from HBCU. Correction. That, those people are some of the best ball players ever, and they come from HBCU. So why wouldn't we focus on HBCUs and create an HBCU league, and then we bomb-storm those leagues, and then we support those? Go to your local gym, and we've packed those gyms, and then we put those games on YouTube and broadcast them, and we tap in, and we go buy HBCU jerseys or black NBA or a black version of the NBA jerseys, and we buy their shoes, and we make them rich. See, at one point, we had this thing called the Chitlin Circuit. And we would barnstorm all these black places, and people like James Brown and Little Richard and others became millionaires because they did it. They went to those places and created rock and roll. They created funk. They created hip hop, and they created all these things. But we think, it'll be better. Question before I go. One more question. If, as a dreamer, I want to be a comedian. Somebody told you, rap, or the average person, rap, or whoever you are, you want to be a comedian, we can get you 500,000 guaranteed net dollars. We can give you about 980 a year, but taxes are going to take you about 500. We can guarantee you that every year for the rest of your life. Would you take it? More than likely you would, because some people, as they say, I was doing it for chicken wings. And then you start entering the clubs that you and then other people will integrate you will make more. Or do you need to cross over and make a lot of money now and then have your future in the balance? We have to bow down to something that's greater than you. So you think people like Tubi are the answer? No, because it's a black entity called Mansa, M-A-N-S-A. They have the same type of things. And guess what? They even have white people on Mansa, black-owned version of Tubi. It's called a black tube now, black YouTube. They have that now. You have black-owned banks. We have black everything. So if we, let's just say a small percentage of, let's say 15 million of us, start engaging, other eyes will come that way. You don't believe me? 2 words, Tyler Perry. See, BET is no longer ours. So when Viacom bought it, it deleted from my mind. I forgot BET existed. I don't watch the BET Awards. They don't have anything on it. They have some things on there that I am interested in, but I refuse to watch it because it's not us. See, if we realize that we're the standard and we stand tall and we have these conversations at the cookout, we'll no longer have the problems that we're faced with as long as we realize that we're the standard. But as long as we realize or assume that other people are the standard, we suffer the consequences and never move forward. With that being said, don't announce the next boycott. With that being said, download BLAP, B-L-A-P. Download official Black Wall Street. Start shopping with us. Is it going to be perfect? Of course not. Is it going to move like Amazon? Of course not. You know why? Because you haven't been there shopping long enough. The more you shop, the more they invest, the more they invest, the more they improve, the more they improve, the more it'll be like Amazon. It costs too much. How about this? How about if you're a local black business, it costs too much. How about you have a cookout, so to speak, and you invite the owners of those black businesses and you make a promise, hey, if we start shopping with you, you're gonna have to buy more product. If you buy more product, can't you be happy with making it $4 million a year instead of making the $600,000 that you would make? But I need you to maintain your prices to make it affordable. Because when you make it affordable for us, we focus on you, and then other communities will come and shop just like we did with theirs. See, we can complain or we can come up with a solution. We can cry or we can celebrate and integrate and or empower. I need those things to happen. You need those things to happen. But if you don't allow those things to happen, you will continue to suffer the consequences. With that being said, this is Brian H. Rap B. This is the End of the Bench Media. And I need you to tap in Monday. We're going to do me and the forecast right here. Hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, tell a friend to tap in. This is what I want you to do. I want you to subscribe, and then you get a notification that we come on Monday. We're going to do this documentary on Earth, Wind, and Fire. And it'll show you that we are the standard. We set the pace for most things in this country. And nothing is by happenstance. Nothing in this world is by happenstance. You can pretend that it is. Oh man, that just happened. Or you can understand when you do things with intention, intentional things happen. Intentional things happen. You uplift and empower. You uplift and empower. You celebrate. I want you to watch this to the end and listen to what this person has to say, because it's important. This is Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers in the history of the world. I'm H. Rap B, 2 fingers, 1 word, and I am.
So really, ain't nothing in this integration. I need some land. I need some jobs. My people need jobs. We need something so we can build and do for ourselves, and we must have some land. Now, what's your suggestion? What should be my movement? Integrate?
Yeah, equal rights in a mixed society.
In this society, where you still own the government, you still own the train station, the railroad plant, the lecture plant, these television cameras, you still make all the food, you control everything, and I'm like a leech on a dog's back. All I can do is just wait for you. I can't do nothing for myself. Integrating in your society don't mean I'm doing nothing for myself. You doing it all. I want to do something for myself. I'm tired of depending on you. You might get broke one day. Your stores might close. Your gas pumps might cut off again. I'm relying on you now. Can I have my own land?